Alan,
right.
tell me about Detective Chinatown 1900.
Okay, so in researching the film while reviewing it, I found out that Detective Chinatown is a popular Hong Kong movie series. I didn't know that, but Detective Chinatown 1900 takes place in 1900, in San Francisco 1900. Stars the two stars of the franchise, being, let's see, oh yeah, Wang Bu Kang as Akui, and Liu Horan as Kin Fu. The way the story works is we're in San Francisco. The evil Congressman Grant, played by John Cusack, wants to take back the Chinatown land, wants to kick out all the Chinese, but political forces are preventing him to do it. But fortunately, backing him up is the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1848, I believe. So what's happening now is a lot of stuff going on in San Francisco Chinatown. A Grant's daughter is found murdered in Chinatown next to a Native American, or as they say in this movie, an Indian chief. So this spurs Grant to finally say, okay, that's it. We're going to get rid of the Chinese because they killed my daughter. So in comes a detective, Kim Fu, who happens to be the apprentice of Sherlock Holmes, who is traveling across the country. Though he is the apprentice of Sherlock Holmes, he's not quite as good as Sherlock Holmes. But he is asked by the godfather of Chinatown, played by Chow Yun-fat, to solve the murder. And so that's what this movie is. The son of the chief who died, he is brought in to help him out, and the two go throughout San Francisco to find out who murdered the daughter. In that, there's a lot of intrigue. There is, one of the reasons people don't like the Chinese at this time was because they were cheap labor. You could pay them very next to nothing rather than employ American workers. And so the unions are involved in this story. There's also the fact that Chow Yun-fat's character is called the Godfather because he has created a force of enforcers because at that time the police wouldn't protect Chinatown. And then there's also a revolution going on in China. There are some traders in San Francisco, and a contingent of Chinese warriors are sent in to find them. All right. So this is the thing. This is a 2.5-hour movie. The issue I have with Chinese films is there's too much plot. There's too much story going on. This should be about the two detectives. Instead, there are at least 3 or 4 subplots. It was kind of cool to see John Cusack in this movie. He has done Chinese movies in the past. I'll refer you to Dragon Blade, where he stars with Jackie Chan and Adrian Brody in a very horrible Chinese film. Look, okay. There are things I like about this. There are things I don't. This takes place in 1900, which is essentially when my great grandfather was here in the United States, living in San Francisco, and so it was kind of cool to kind of see what life was like for him at that time, and then for when my grandfather ultimately came to America. The set in this movie is incredible. It is San Francisco of 1900, and they built it practical. It's a giant set.
Wow.
And when they go through the set, if you've ever been to San Francisco and you walk through this set, it feels like San Francisco. There's one iconic building in San Francisco is a triangular building at an intersection, and the streets kind of going. That building is in this movie. A lot of money and effort has been spent on this. The problem with the movie, to me, is it's too much comedy and not enough action. There is, I would say, a good half hour of action in this movie, and the rest of it is just a lighthearted comedy about trying to find out who the murderer is. Then also the other problem I have is that it leans so much into the Chinese Exclusion Act, which is real. I don't think Chinese people in the 1900s talked about the Chinese Exclusion Act as much as this film did in real life. The other thing I find interesting about that is all the people involved in this movie were never affected by the Chinese Exclusion Act because they're all from Hong Kong and China.
Yeah.
They were never in America like my grandparents, my great grandparents. They're the ones who suffered through the Chinese Exclusion Act. And I'm actually a result of loopholes of the Chinese Exclusion Act that brought my mother over here to China to start the family and ultimately give birth to me. So I think if you're a fan of the Detective Chinatown and you like these characters and Chow Yun-fat, great. But outside of that, I can't really recommend the movie. It just goes on too long. And I don't know, there's just something, as I said, there's a little bit of felt a little disingenuous. It just, I needed more action. So yeah, I'll give it a 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10. All right. Alan, you bring honor to your family with this
Yeah.
review.